Hey there, it's Thursday. We're talking about lesson 5, Destiny and the Balance. We have a small group here, and I've been in motion now for over 12 hours, planes, trains, and automobiles. But I just wanted to jump in here and talk about this lesson and have you guys keep studying this. And we'll wrap it up on Monday. And then, in case you have any more questions, I also wanted to say, and this is a recording for Joni and Lisa, hey girls, that I did put a link to my calendar and I would love to connect with you ladies. If there's not a time that works, you all know how to get me. We'll get together. I'm also planning a Power Life script workshop in probably after the next 2 weeks. I will keep you posted on that. It's going to be on a Saturday, most likely, and it's for my TIR clients, but I would love to have you all join if you'd be interested, and more on that later. So, that being said, I wanted to just point out a couple of what I think are pertinent aha moments I've had reading this lesson. See if you guys had any questions and then wrap it up. And if you guys are satisfied, I'm here for the duration. But the one thing that I want to say to you all is, and we'll get to wins in a minute, this lesson is so powerful because Bob said, and it didn't really dawn on me, took me a few years, I'm a little dense. Ignorance is the only thing we're fighting here. And when you say ignorance of what? Ignorance of who we really are as these infinite, spiritually perfect beings, right? And ignorance of the universal laws that govern our being and the rest of the world. It's a little thing I'd like to call how life really works. So, he's talking about the law of cause and effect here, how our thoughts cause the effect. Our thoughts cause the cause, and the effect happens. But if you go to page 5, and if you don't have it, you can go back and look at it, of this lesson, he's talking about the universal laws. Now, are there more? Yes. There's laws in the Bible, there's laws in the Quran, there's laws in Raymond Hollowell wrote a book that the title is escaping me. And he had 11 laws in addition to these laws. But these laws, if you think about it, are so powerful because energy is always moving to and through us into form. Always. The perpetual transmutation of energy is the first law there. Well, he calls the first law is the great law is energy is. And in that video of Bob that I put into the WhatsApp chat, and I think I reposted it, he says energy is. That's what all scientists will say. It can neither be created nor destroyed, is of itself everywhere, evenly present in all places and all times. The theologians would say God is evenly present, all places and all times, in and of himself, indivisible. It's just God is. So, however, which way you want to slice this, we're dealing with this amazing, powerful energy. And the thing that it really hit me, I've been reading this book called This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes, and I'm just so fascinated by his take on this. Some things just resonate more at different times of your life. But in the first chapter, he says, you, like all others, are seeking the joy of living. You wish to be needed, to be loved, to be included in the great drama of life. This urge is in every individual. It is in everything. The rose exists to express beauty. Root and branch conspire with nature to give birth to blossom. An artist will starve in his garret that he may chisel an angelic form from a slab of marble, compelling the unyielding substance to accept his breath of creation. Not only human beings, but everything in nature is endowed with this creative urge. And so he goes on to say that everything must find fulfillment or perish. And this hits me in this way. And he goes on to say, create or perish is the eternal mandate of nature. Be constructive or become frustrated is an equal demand. You cannot escape the conclusion that whatever this thing is, which is seeking expression through everything, it can find satisfactory outlet only through constructive and life-giving creativeness. What does that mean? To me, it means we're meant to constantly be growing. And in this lesson, Bob talks about there is no neutral, pretty much. You're either moving ahead, you're actively expressing, co creating, connecting with God, connecting with Source, connecting with whatever that is to you, and doing your part of the creative process in an orderly way, or you're going to find yourself frustrated. And the truth is, we do both, right? Sometimes we just feel so connected to Source, so connected to gratitude, so connected to the ideas that flow, so connected to everything that we're inspired. We're taking inspired action. On the last call, I had a client who's just flying. Like things are just like popping for her left and right. She did TIR with me way, way back in the day. She was one of my first clients, actually, a good friend of mine. And she just put herself in the spirit of her goal achieved and into the intention of what she wanted and having that faith that it's here, it's coming. And things are just like clicking, popping, flying at her. People on the call were like, wait, what's happening? And I said, the universe loves speed. Everything's already here. But what is our work? Is it to hustle and to grind and to angst and to brute force it? As a former hardworking Midwestern gal, AKA by me, Laura, and there's a place and time for that male kind of, and by male, I don't mean women and men. I mean, that male energy of get shit done. There's a time and place for that. But when we start, first and foremost, in this connected energy is, and we connect up to it, as Bob talks about, when we enter into the spirit of the thing we desire. Flora, when you talk about what you do and how it matters, and the film and the music and the book and the work you do and the work, when you think about how that helps people, like my heart is full right now because you've shared those stories with me. I can feel the energy of that, right? And Kathy, it's the same for you. I know when you see these women you're working with move ahead and,
It's amazing.
have it just is like, is there a better feeling in the world than expressing
No,
your purpose in life?
no, mm-mm,
None.
none.
And I love that this chapter is about serving on a
Yes.
higher level. Bob says in that video, he's not into getting, he's into what can he create. And interestingly, he ended up with a huge abundance, right? You wanted to do 6 months of TIR with him, it was $150. It was 150 grand. And if you didn't do the work, he kept your money and fired you. That was the deal up front because he wasn't screwing around. That's how much he knew this worked. It worked for him before he even knew what he was doing, right? That's why he spent a decade figuring it out. So, so what's the point of all of this, right? The point is, in this lesson in particular, when we understand the things that were never taught to us in school, no matter where you went, you never learned who you really were as this creative being, as this perfect substrate of the infinite, right? Made in God's image, in his likeness. Whatever that is for you, meant to expand and co-create and express more and more of your perfection, then why do we get so messed up? It's a rhetorical question, but what I'll open up the floor. Like where does the thing fall apart?
You want us to answer?
Yeah.
Well, I think you then start living from the outside in. You let things on the outside. And I've noticed, the more confident and all that I've become in the last 5 years, and I'm a gregarious person. So I go out in the world and I really not what to do. Do you know there?
Peggy,
I lost Peggy. Peggy?
Yeah,
have
so
oh, she's having technical difficulties.
As we gain more and more who we are, and then you go back out into the world, and you're a gregarious person too. And I notice I have to have my quiet time and come back and reconnect me, because I can lose myself, I
I'm
guess.
I'm very much an advocate introvert. So I and then so that's lended my life, and I've been a codependent person. So as I backed out of that, learned from that, let that go, I have found what that leaves me with is that this desire to fulfill my goals, and which is service, but also I need my quiet time.
Me too.
If I'm not protective of myself, then yeah.
Yeah, I love how you said backed out of being codependent, because I was so codependent, and I'm not anymore. And
It's nice freedom, isn't it?
It's so nice. But we need our quiet time, our reading, our meditations to hang on to the center of who we are.
Peggy,
exactly.
Are you back, Peggy?
Yeah, I'm
Peggy,
back.
you're back?
Sorry about that. Can you hear
That's
me?
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Who knew? The Delta Clubs. It said my wife. There are a gazillion people in here. That's amazing. It was pretty empty at 6:30 this morning. Absolutely. And the truth here is the more time, Kathy and Laura and Lisa and Joni, that we can spend in our higher faculties, right? Think of lesson 5 in TIR. This is talking about, this here is talking about thinking, but also about universal laws that govern the way we think, right? I was trained to live from the outside in, to your point, but the power is in the intellectual connecting with the spiritual realm. That's where the co-creation happens. And then our work, in quotes, is to stay in alignment on a conscious level, get emotionally involved on a subconscious level, use your will to hold the image of your dream on the screen of your mind to the exclusion of all else. If we do those two things, we have an image of what we want, an intention, a goal, whatever feels better for you. And then we get emotionally involved in it, like, phew, that's so cool. That's my work. That's my job. There's a power much bigger than me. It's got this all lined up, and I'm just walking in faith. I'm grateful in advance for it already being here. And when I have those little, mosquito of worry, fear, and doubt that show up, I'm like, I see you. Go sit in the corner. The adults are talking. I'm back here in the faith realm, right? And
Yeah.
so the more we can stay in alignment, and that's why taking track of your wins, like nothing is by coincidence. This last client had this deal where just like everything is popping. Why? Because she set the intention of what she wanted and she was open. And in my way of thinking, the thing that most slows us down is the resistance in the form of worry, fear, and doubt. It's not ginning up what we need to want to manifest. It's already here. I'll tell you a funny story. So my daughter made an offer on this property in Hawaii, and she has access to some of her money now, and she's a little bit impulsive, and she loves Hawaii, and she has this little place, but she wanted this family home, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, it wasn't the right place. We went to visit the property. It's absolutely gorgeous, but she's like, you know what? I just have this intuition. It's not the right place. It's not the right time. It's a beautiful place, but it's not the right time.
Is
Well,
this is in Hilo? In
yeah,
Hilo?
it's north, it's on the Waimea coast. So,
Okay.
um, so I said, well, let's just visual. And she was supposed to close this week. She was supposed to close today. And they had $50,000 of her earnest money. And the seller representative was also representing her. Never a good idea, but whatever. So, and she did not have an attorney review the documents, but you know, so they were pressuring her to close anyway, and she did have the cash, but she didn't want to have to deal with it. They're like, oh, we can relist it. Yeah, no doubt, two commissions. And anyway, I just said, Alexandra, just walk in faith. Let's visualize it working out. The father who owns the brokerage and the son who was the agent called her and were pressuring her yesterday. She dropped me off at the airport. She's like, Mom, I think I'm just going to have to let go of that 50 grand in earnest money. I'm like, ouch. Yeah. She called me, she dropped me off, and she said, you're never going to believe this. I love those stories that start with, you're never going to believe this. Turns out the property cannot legally be sold because the couple built the house themselves. And on the Big Island, they have a law that if you're not an on island licensed contractor, you have to hold the property for a year before you sell it. So the listing it wasn't listed, it was a pocket listing. Anyway, these are more details than you need to know. The net is not only is she getting her money back, but I think it was actionable what happened there. But, she's not going to pursue that because it's a small community and she doesn't want that juju. But isn't that amazing?
Amazing. Wow. So she got her money back, it looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to say they'll give it all back except 2000. And she paid $500 for a house inspection. And we had a little talk about that last night. And I said, ask Jonathan, tell him your mother wants to know why on an illegal contract you are owing any money to anybody for anything.
Yeah, how about some of that interest that
Yes,
well, been
exactly.
sitting in escrow? So why don't you pay me?
Yeah. Yeah. Long story. But my point is, when we can, and I loved the surfing analogy, when we can just set this intention and take a deep breath and know that by working with our energy through our thoughts and through our feelings, we can achieve amazing things and it can be so easy. And I don't know about you, I'm used to things not being easy. That was my growing up paradigm. Life was not
Mhm.
easy. It was not like I wasn't locked in a dungeon as a child, but nothing was easy. Money wasn't easy. Relationships weren't easy. Health wasn't easy. You know, having responsible people around me wasn't like I was the adult in the room since I was born, basically.
Mhm.
So, that has shaped my paradigms. Is this a woe is me thing? No, I'm getting good. And this is what I want to invite you to do. I'm getting good at being very clinically objective about my programming because that's where the low hanging fruit is. Feeling badly about our paradigms, which I think is somewhat natural, is not helpful.
No.
Observing them and saying, if this is what I don't want, what do I want? And then you'll have a bunch of, yeah, but how come? No, I don't. Yeah. And that's your paradigm. But what if we can just make this super easy? What if it is just not make it? That's more of, I've got to do something to make it easy. It is easy. We are by,
I always,
if it's hard, it's because we're making it harder than it has to be. Go ahead, Kathy.
I,
Sorry.
I always say when I look at my paradigms, I go, well, my parents, this kind of takes me out of being annoyed or something.
Mhm.
I always say, well, they did the best they could. They didn't know anything,
Right.
and I didn't starve. I didn't whatever. I would have liked a lot of things maybe different, but they didn't know anything. That helps me.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Laura? What do you think about all this?
Oh, well, I agree. And I'm listening and I'm reflecting and I don't beat myself up.
No.
Again, thank you, Hannah, for teaching me to have grace with myself. But at the same time, I can go, oh my gosh, you know what? I think I'm still holding on to buy me. I can find that. And the
Yeah.
worry. And I had an experience last night that it was literally shocking to me. And it was around weight and it was about 8:30 and I had the compulsion to eat like I normally do. And it might just be some chips or whatever, but and I was hungry. I was literally hungry last night. And so there's this conflict. What do I do now? And after going through now, Peggy, I mean, Kate, I don't know if you watched everything that happened yesterday with me and my affirmations and setting my
I
intention.
did. I
Okay,
did.
so I
Really
placed my
good.
order. I placed my
Mhm.
order to the universe. I love that analogy in my head. I feel like my head is the car and the universe is the restaurant, and I'm driving through and I'm placing my order. This is my order. So I got up, I sat there, didn't eat anything. And then I went, you know what? No, I'm hungry. And we changed that verbiage to I'll do anything or eat anything necessary to keep a healthy body. So I got up and I was still confused. I didn't feel quite good about everything, but I got up to go look in the cabinet. And the thought came to me, and this is what was new. Okay. I am now 155 pounds. What am I going to do now? Not eat. It was as clear as a bell. It was simple, it was peaceful. And I just went, oh, okay. And I turned around and went to bed.
I love that.
Wow.
Yeah. So noticing little things like that. And that's what's happening in my life. New thought, new action, inspired action, peaceful inspired action. Um, yeah, I feel like a new being. I really do. The two programs together have changed me.
Yeah, I love it. And and that's the thing. Like people say, well, what's the point of all this? And I love it what he says here. The point of it is joy. You, like all
Yes.
others, are seeking the joy of living. You wish to be needed, to be loved, to be included in the great drama of life. here's what I think, and I love what you're saying, Laura. I think we're meant to just be constantly evolving,
Mhm.
constantly expressing, constantly in this co-creative process. And when I look at people who have some mastery of this, like Phil, like Bob, they've done it over and over and over and over so much that that is quite literally their state of being. Now, are they human? Of course, we all are. But when we shift from the education I had, which is, oh, when I get certain things, or when my body looks a certain way, or, whatever, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be joyful. Then I'll be at ease. Versus this is a huge co-creative process where I'm helping to expand the universe and my fellow human and non-humans and whatever, in whatever way I feel pulled and called to do. And it's just this never-ending cycle of learning, unlearning, relearning, um, and learning these universal laws, like the law of rhythm is such a good law. These laws are on page 5. This is out of The Science of Getting Rich. Like, you're not going to have every day is just going to be a banner day. Some days you're going to be tired. Some days you're going to be excited. That's the law of rhythm. Things go up, things go down. If things go down in a big way, Bob used to say, if you have a really big problem, get excited because there's an equal or greater opportunity on the other side of it if we see it in that way, right? So
Mm.
learning to deal, right, but what happens when we hit a big problem? We
You,
pound on the
you know,
problem.
yesterday it was so stormy. It was so cloudy. It was so, I mean, overwhelming, right? And for me in my head and everything, it was just a tough day for a lot of reasons. And I'm looking out the window right now, and the skies are blue, and the snow is jet. I mean, I have pictures. I've taken pictures, and it's so stunningly gorgeous. And I thought about that very same thing today. It's like, just live through the storm and know that the sun is coming.
Right, it's somewhere. I was just in Hawaii, people go for vacation. I didn't see the sun until I flew out last night
Oh,
from Honolulu,
whoa.
from Hilo to Honolulu. I have
But you're,
I have never been more wet and like deluge, pouring rain. And at first, like nothing was dry. Ugh, my hair, you should see it. I mean, it's like everything was like my books were wet, my worksheets were like everything was damp. And then as I was laying there listening to the rain, same thing, Laura, as I was listening to the rain and looking at the papaya trees that just drop fruit, papayas that we pay, $20 for at Whole Foods, avocados, I'm just like, you know what? This is that permanent transmutation of energy. The water evaporates up into clouds. It hits this 13-foot mountain range here on the Big Island, which also happens to be a volcano. It drops all the water. It feeds the earth and the soil. It evaporates back up. That Bob used to use that example as a permanent transmutation of energy. Energy is always moving to and through us into form as
and the
well.
real issue you were there for was your daughter. So you didn't have a
Yeah,
lot to do but sit and talk. So it was
yes.
like,
And we had a lot of fun. And when I
yeah.
tell you, it's tropical, it's like a rainforest there. She is not the most tidy housekeeper. Um, this has been a theme in my life. Like, I grew up in a very chaotic home, and I have part of my paradigm is a bit OCD, like order is heaven's first law. Like, that's my jam. And I just was like, you know what? Let it go, let it go. I just had to let it go. My parents were messy. you know, my daughter's like, well, I grew up with a nanny. I'm like, you're 30. That's not an excuse anymore, you know? And if you're not going to do the damn dishes, hire somebody to do them, you know? But again, I just use my higher faculties, my perception to say, you know what? To your point, Laura, we had a blast. We watched these silly Netflix shows. We had so much fun together. We're both vegan. We love to go to these little, you know, vegan restaurants and places and get fresh fruit. And she's so happy there. And that's what I focused on. And it was such a breakthrough. It was so huge to just, Kathy, you and I have had so many conversations about
Yes.
family and getting triggered by family. And it's just like, you know what? Let it go. Just let it go and be in the moment and be grateful and be
Were you
joyful.
able to do it most
Yeah.
99% of the time?
Well, when I saw it, it was almost like, and I think, I don't know, the Byron Katie work, it's almost like at one point I just surrendered, like the rain and the wetness and the dampness and where her property is. It's like a mud path to get out. And, you know, like I just was like, oh my God, this is my idea of a hellscape, you know, but you know what? It was like she's happy there. And she hasn't lived outside of my ex-husband's home since she had her psychosis. And she has friends
Wow.
there. And she built this cute little house, 2-bedroom thing with a lanai. And she's living her dream. And I was able, yes, Kathy, to just say, you know what? It's my job to walk alongside her, not to like snowplow her path.
Yeah.
Right. That's
That's
codependence. But
that's
you know,
so healthy. That's
yeah.
so healthy. She's left,
Yeah,
his house and is
100%.
now 8,000 miles away, or how many,
Pretty
and on
much.
her
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
That is huge progress. Oh my gosh.
So Byron Katie would say that reality is always kinder than the stories we tell about it.
Hmm.
And that acceptance, when we just accept what is, that there's peace there. And that's what you did. You came to full acceptance. That's the truth. Acceptance is one of the most misunderstood, non-used universal laws.
Yeah.
because we think that that puts us in a passive position, because we believe it's a buy me world, to me and then
Yeah.
buy me, to me and then buy me, to me and then buy me. And
Yeah.
the reality is that acceptance, that Winnie the Pooh moment of just sitting down with your honey pot, it's all good.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I had just come off a vacation. My high school friend that started the health food store with me came to visit us from Michigan. She and her husband came to visit us in Utah and ski, and we had a really great time. And they're just fun people. But you know, her daughter is married to this very wealthy family, and her other daughter is doing this great thing. And then I was, you know, comparing, you know, Alexandra, and it was just like, she's her. Back to your point, Laura, like be here now in the present generous moment. And she's here, she's on her own path, she has her own soul contract, she's living her life. I'm proud of her. You know, it's non-conventional in many ways, but you know what? She's making it work. And who am I to judge her?
No.
Yeah, who are you to criticize her? I mean, go ahead and judge. Go ahead and judge her as being an amazing person. You don't have to criticize
Yeah.
that she should be doing something that she's not. And I
Yeah.
think parents have a special brand of codependence, and that we take everything personal and think it's because of us that they are
Exactly.
not. And
That's
that's just not true.
that's a lot of hubris, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
it
know. And
is.
then
It
it
is, and
fired.
we're taught that.
Well, and it fired up for me like this rage against my ex-husband about how he never let me get her help and all these different things. And then I saw somewhere that somebody said, look, you know, we all pick our deal. You know, we have some sort of deal coming in here. And if we don't work this out, you know, there's a potential to work it out in the future. And I was like, I'm letting that go. Just like, you know what? I don't want to judge him anymore. I don't want to judge me. I don't want to judge her. I just want to be joyful, happy in my lane, doing my work, being grateful, helping my clients, living my best life. My kids know 24/7, I'm there for them. But I had this, you know, my paradigm was somewhat being neglected as a child. I would say benign neglect. And I was just bent on being that parent that was going to be there and help their kids and
Mhm.
give them everything I didn't have. And I think there's a good quality to that. But now what I realize is they're adults now. They got their
Yeah.
own lives. And, you know, the best I can do is love them, be happy for them. Lydia's living in the middle of the desert down in southern Utah. Not my jam. Alex is like, move to Hawaii. I'm like, I can't take the rain and, you know, and all of that, you know, but like, it's like everybody's got their happy place. And that's awesome. And as it should be. And you're right, Laura. I just have so much. I don't know if it's the extreme exhaustion or, or living, camping, basically glamping.
For
But
10
I
days,
just,
was it 10 days?
yeah, I flew out Tuesday night, Tuesday midday last
Yeah.
week. But the whole thing is, I just feel like I'm just letting go of I'm surrendering in a
Yeah.
peaceful way, like surrendering to the river of life, surrendering to the current, knowing it only flows in the direction of my well-being and everybody's well-being, and there's only lessons and blessings, and you know,
Yeah, and
right?
that leads, if you can lead into and find true gratitude, not, and if you have to fake the gratitude at first, fine, but just dwell on what you really think is wonderful about it all. The gratitude is what carries me through.
It's so true. It's so true. Think about it.
Truly, yes.
I mean,
You can
you
be grateful
know,
for anything if you look for it. And
100%.
you know, even my kids, your kids do what you do. So if you were lecturing your kids the whole time they're growing up, like I was lecturing my whole kids, guess what my kids do to me now? Lecture me.
That got a snort.
Yeah.
That hit so hard that I had to snort. Yeah.
And
I'm like,
and I
okay.
love it. I love it. And they'll figure it out. Maybe my one son is constantly, if I don't agree with him, he does not let up. I'm like, hello, Laura, in male form.
Well, what did our mother say? Someday you'll have a daughter just like you. Well, wasn't she right?
Thank
But
goodness, because we're
yeah,
pretty amazing. So if our kids are like us, our
yeah,
kids are like us,
yeah.
and they're going to do what we're doing now, and they're doing it sooner than what we did.
Yes.
Dang.
It's pretty amazing. And to your point, Laura and Kathy, I know you live your life this way. I think having our kids see us old dogs learning new tricks
Yes. That's
is
huge.
really powerful. Like admitting when we're like off base, you know, owning our own stuff, you know, and taking responsibility. That speaks volumes. That speaks such volumes. Like my youngest daughter got into TIR a little bit about 3 years ago, and she's graduating from college now. And she's like, you know what? Are you still teaching a class? I'd love to come into your TIR class. And I was like, um, you know, and it wasn't forcing it. It was like, just, I'm always here for you. However I can help, let me know. And if I used to kind of be like, well, you know, PGI, well, you know, and they were like, ugh, you know, so it's all good. But
You know what? My son was just here last week, and Tom, and
oh yeah, yeah.
he's 46. And he said, Mom, because of the way you've become, I get strength from you now. Where my ex-husband, he's not doing anything with his life. So it
Right.
your kids will really benefit because we become strong and know this. That's what I'm
Right.
seeing.
There's no
100%.
difference between then and now. The principles are all the same. So
Yeah.
Yes.
now we're living our truth. And something that Byron Katie does teach that really rubs people the wrong way is that your kids have their own life now when they're 10, when they're 8, when they're 7. And we think we're supposed to control and teach and badger. And really, if we were just living our own best lives, it would encourage them so much more. So that's what's happening. We're doing exactly what works.
Mm-hmm.
Proof. My mom used to lecture me all the time, and I used to say, get your own shit in order and then talk to me. And then when she did, I mean, really, when she did, about 35, 40 years old, I went, now this is helpful. It
Yeah.
switched everything for me. It was no longer a focus on me. It was her I got to watch, and it released everything from me it released all the pressure. Now it was just me. I had to figure it out. I couldn't blame anybody. There was no resistance.
Oh, my dears. This has been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would love to chat with you guys one-on-one. I put my calendar link in the WhatsApp chat. If you
Oh,
don't
okay.
see a time, let me know. And we will keep studying this lesson, but listen to that Bob video. I'll repost it again. Listen to that for the next day or two and just see what comes to you, what comes to your awareness in alignment with lesson 5 about the universal laws. As he talks about both in that lesson, he talks about the universal laws, and then he also talks about entering into the spirit of it, which is really the co-creative process. Okay.
Okay. Thanks,
to you.
Peggy.
Talk to you, BDs, later.
Okay.
Bye. I'm
Bye.
choosing the time. I'm looking at
Bye-bye.
your calendar.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.